off the bat, let's just try to experiment with using this model to draw relationships between two sets of symptomology and a solution in terms of what you can do on a daily basis to support this problem. So we're going to start over here with inflammation, and we're going to relate it all the way back to hormone balance. We're going to call this side of the chart the creation cycle. We're going to call this side of the chart the destruction cycle. So just experimentally, borrowing these terms from Oriental medicine, we're going to try to see how what we do on a daily basis either leads towards healing inflammation and leads towards balancing the hormones, or leads towards creating more inflammation and imbalancing the hormones. So just to take a moment for the anecdote, inflammation is the single most rampant cause of everything we know that destroys genetic integrity. So hormone balance is really why we make the choices that we make to not make changes in our life. So let's just call the primary thing we can focus on this side H2O, water. And the primary thing on this side we're going to call sugar. The most life-giving substance on the planet is water. The most destructive substance on the planet is sugar. So what connects these two? Let's say salt, because salt is the yin to the yang of sugar. So this is active, expansive, energizing. This is protective, nourishing, calming. So calm water, fiery sugar. And then on this side, we're going to talk about relieving inflammation. And when you have life, you have microbes. There's a lot of microbes in our body. And some of them are beneficial, and some of them are destructive. So enzymes are not microbes, but they do all the work in the body. These are microscopic bits of active living life that do a lot of the work that you would say that microbes do. And then probiotics, Lactobacillus, acidophilus, bifidus, and lots and lots of others. Enzymes, we've got amylase, protease, lipase, catalase, chitinase, and those are just classes of enzymes, and those are just classes of metabolic enzymes, and then we've got thousands of other enzymes that do work in our organs, very specific jobs that they're programmed to do. And then destructive, you know, viruses, parasites, mold, fungus. And what we don't realize most of the time is that fungus and mold are not just in our basements and in our attics and in our moldy old houses, but we get a lot of them from food. This is one of the primary reasons why people become allergic to tree nuts, to wheat and grain based products. Of course, this is the reason foodborne allergies and starch are the reason why beer makes a lot of people more drunk than wine does. What else are people allergic to? People are allergic to environmental toxicities, such as pesticides and fungicides. And then, you know, over here, of course, we have to reserve a little corner for our nasty little industrial pollutants that we come into contact with all the time, that it's the hardest thing to try to wrap your head around because it's like studying pathology. It's just nasty when you think about what industrial pollutants do to the body. However, we're going to call this the 1 to 10% incursion of disease in our body. And we're going to call food-based allergies and starch are 90% culprit of age and disease and inflammation. So industrial wastes, starch, and food allergens like molds and funguses, which I've now written on the creation cycle side, this is what leads to inflammation, and then the inflammation leads to hormone imbalance. So let's say we eliminate sugar and we balance our electrolytes and we improve our antioxidants, we improve our enzymatic activity. What that does is it cleans up inflammation and leads to hormone balance. How does cleaning up inflammation lead to hormone balance? Well, again, this goes back to the correlation between, we'll put this up next to fire, fiery liver, and sluggish immunity, and excesses of waste, and mucus, which is the result of inflammation, and colon health, because the liver drains through the colon. And then all of this stuff that we think of as related to the liver and the organs of digestion, we're going to relate all of that to each and every cell through the rest of the metabolic process that happens in the cells. And this 90% waste producer over here that bogs down cellular metabolism is starch and sugar. So not only do starch and sugar lead to inflammation through backing up and creating excess waste in our cells, but also it throws off the hunger cycle. Because when we experience a fiery digestive situation over a long period of time, that affects the 5 primary hunger hormones, which happen to be insulin, directly related to starch and sugar, cortisol, directly related to the stress response, and the stress response that's kicked in by having fiery foods on a regular basis. And then that throws off leptin, which is a hormone produced in our fat cells that responds to the crossover of stress and its call on the digestive system to digest muscle instead of fat. And because leptin is pro-inflammatory, it happens to get thrown off by a consistency of the inflammation process related to sugar and starch, and is then caught in a positive feedback loop when we throw off our insulin and cortisol, and then that directly affects ghrelin and peptide YY. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone produced in the stomach. Peptide YY is the satiety hormone produced in the gut, in the small intestines and the large intestines. So, when our hunger level is thrown off, it's going to send cross signals to our organs. And when these 5 hormones are thrown out of whack, guess what happens? Serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, human growth hormone are all thrown off. But what are we seeing now is a rise in hypo and hyperthyroid issues. So when cortisol and insulin and leptin are thrown out of whack, it is draining on the kidneys, and the drain on the kidneys creates a drain on the thyroid. And salt supports the thyroid. Sugar kills the kidneys. So when we have too much sugar, that throws off our salt balance, which disrupts our thyroid balance. And then we get this positive feedback loop of all of our feelings of happiness and our sense, right? Epinephrine, this is the multiple sclerosis and fibromyalgia hormone. When epinephrine is thrown off, your nerves are just raw all the time, and you're sore and you're inflamed on a regular basis, and that further throws off thyroid function. And then what happens when you're not sleeping properly? Your liver is waking you up at 2 in the morning when you can't get to bed because you've got night sweats. Then you wake up in the morning and your cortisol is already drained. It hasn't had a chance to rebalance itself. And then you go for coffee and sugar and bread and cookies for breakfast. And then you're kicking yourself right in the pants. So imagine this going on for 10 years. It's not hard to imagine. That's how most of us have lived for the past 10 years. So inflammation throws off hunger. Hunger throws off our hormones. Our hormones throw off our electrolyte balance and our immune system because we're in a constant state of inflammation. This creates excess waste, which backs up the system, backs up the colon, backs up the liver, backs up cellular metabolism, creates gunk, which then creates arthritis and feeds nasty microbes, and then makes us happen to crave more nasty microbes. We crave more of what we're allergic to because of this hormone balance cycle, and that's when we tell ourselves, I can't stop eating sugar, I can't stop eating sugar, I'll never stop eating pasta, I'll never stop eating bread. Those are my comfort foods. But really this is creating this destruction, and stopping this creates this balance of happy probiotics, happy enzyme production, and a clean system overall, which then leads to proper thyroid function, proper sleep patterns, proper pain and nerve response, and a more normal, calming, satiety-oriented diet that doesn't throw off this cycle, because eventually you begin to recognize, it takes about 2 or 3 months, that that food doesn't actually make you feel good. So I hope this is helpful. And this is an example that I hope is clear in how to use this board as a teaching process. In this way, because it's interactive, I hope that it's easier to memorize. Thank you so much for your attention. So this is that same chart, the inflammation hormone balance chart. And what I would love to show as quickly and as simply as possible is that if you can interfere with your normal inflammation response, if you can get ahead of the antioxidant curve and get ahead of the enzyme curve and get ahead of the body being weighed down and made sluggish by excess ongoing chronic inflammation, that you can easily, much more easily, balance the hormone system, because the rest of the hormones that get messed up by the metabolic processes will be freed up to balance themselves simply because of the reduction in inflammation. So the power of my program is meant to be exactly that. It's reducing inflammation through increasing electrolyte balance, through increasing antioxidant balance, and especially the antioxidants that are made by our bodies, the most powerful of which we know are glutathione, catalase, and superoxide dismutase. So by taking Protandim, by taking a really good curcumin and medicinal mushroom blend, and by taking some time to reduce your starch and increase your intake of proteolytic enzymes, that will automatically make you feel good to the point where it's a lot easier to give up the foods that you think of as comfort foods. The great thing about that reprogramming that happens through this nutritional program is that you're reducing both the cause of disease and the cause of thinking about foods that we know of as bad for us as supportive to us, you know, the comfort foods, that we think about those foods in a different way, that we start to sensitize ourselves to the point where it's easier to feel the detriment of those foods. I'm really excited about this program. I'm really excited about the simplicity of this program. It's a combination of Protandim and turmeric and a few other herbs and proteolytic enzymes. Simply by adding these things to our diet, that we can accomplish so much really excites me, and I hope that it will excite you as well. So thank you so much for sitting through the educational process here. It might seem at times like it's a lot to learn, but it's a lot simpler than you might think to actually implement in your life. So with any questions, email me, sacredapothecary@gmail.com or Sean@sacredapothecary.com. Check out my website. We're going to constantly be updating it with new and cutting edge information on how you can achieve balance in your own health. And think about calling me up or emailing me to get started on this program today. I've seen great results with it in my own life, and I can't wait to share these results in your life with you. Thank you.